Hello, hello, and we are live. So let me do my intro. It's been a while since I've been here on a regular live. So I'll just start by saying, hey there, YouTube, Slasher Chicks and Slasher Dudes. My name's Alicia, and this is Slasher Chick TV, where we like to talk about growth mindset and negotiation strategy. So you never have to choose between this or that. You can always say yes to this slash that and be the multi passionate person that you are. And tonight, we're going to have an interview with a slasher chick who is both a professional social worker, but also a parent and entrepreneur, and now slash content creator here on YouTube, even though she's been creating content elsewhere. And so we're going to have a discussion here about discipline, because there's one more slash that she has that I didn't share right now, but I'm going to give you a little bit of preface as to why that one in particular is important. And it's a tongue in cheek. It might seem like, oh, here we go. Pause on my technical difficulties here, but you'll see why in a moment, and then we'll bring up our special guest.
No doctorate.
No doctor degree.
So why would I call you doctor?
So I call myself Dr. Renaissance because Renaissance means a new birth and new beginning. And so, like I was explaining to them, so I'm an educator. So in my own right, I'm a doctor because I definitely teach children every day. But I don't have.
Whoa. How does you teaching children every day make you a doctor?
Because I specialize in teaching. I specialize in educating children, and that's not stuff that everybody can do.
No, just because you're a teacher doesn't mean you should be called doctor anything.
I hear you, but yes, I specialize in a lot of different things. Though, like an educator is definitely. I don't know. I call myself a doctor because I believe that I am a doctor. I mean, I don't have to subscribe or go to school necessarily to get my doctorate degree to say I'm a doctor.
That's exactly what that means. That's 100% exactly what that means. You go to school, become a doctor, and you're a doctor.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And that's going to happen. But right now, I'm not a doctor. I'm currently not a doctor in the system, but in my right, I'm a doctor.
We'll move right along.
Okay.
I'm not calling you Dr. Renaissance.
It's fine. You don't have to.
I'm going to call you P-Law.
Okay. Now, if you watch this show at all before, you know I love Social Proof, where David Chance interviews people and puts them in the hot seat about their business. And I use that as an example because, one, it's a negotiation. It is a negotiation in which that one person wants to be called Dr. Renaissance. But David Chan brought up what is considered a objective standard, and objective standards are the things by which we can both agree that this is fair or this is viable, right? And an objective standard as to whether someone can be called a doctor or not is whether they've actually completed a doctorate. So that's a great example of how negotiations work and what are objective standards. And part of the reason why I bring that up is because I don't know if y'all knew this, but I learned this in preparing for tonight, that there is a very, very small percentage of people that can say that. Okay, this is no small feat to be able to call yourself a doctor, because did you know that only my images, but only 2% of the US population can call themselves a doctor. So that means out of, if 100 people are in a room, only 2 people in that room can call themselves a doctor. And so that part is a huge slash. So that's the slash that I didn't share in introducing Dr. Ray, who will be joining us tonight and talking specifically about some of the discipline that it took to get there and how that was an act of self-love for her. So without further ado, let me introduce to you Dr. Sharonda Ray Ball, or affectionately known here on YouTube as Hey Dr. Ray.
Hey. I love that video. I love that video that you showed. That clip is hilarious to me. And like you said, you hit the nail on the head. It's all about negotiation. Like, convince me. Tell me on why you are a doctor. just I'm interested to hear your rationale. So please, by all means, enlighten me. I love that. But
I mean,
thank you for having me.
you're welcome. He had an interesting rationale, but it was not anything at all that would be considered a standard for whether someone could actually consider themselves a doctor. But you, in fact, can and were able to manage not only completing your doctorate, but at the time you were starting a new job that also took on more responsibility and leadership. You're a mom, you have lots of philanthropic endeavors, you also have a business and coach people. So there's lots of slash things that you're doing that required you to have really some discipline to make all of that happen and be successful. And I'd be curious into if you, looking back, like what would you say about why discipline was important to accomplish all the things that you do? And if there's anything I didn't share about your background, please use this as an opportunity to share.
I think that's about it. I think just the one thing that I probably would add out of all of the slashes is that I am a very proud graduate of Morgan State University, which is a historically Black college university located in Baltimore, Maryland. And I really think that being a part of the Morgan family and coming up through that system kind of gave me the balls to do 90% of the things that I do. Like they kept us, I don't even want to say they made us delusional, but they really nurtured us to believe that we can do anything, that not just we can just do anything, but we can do anything that we develop a plan and goals and objectives and meet each one, we could reach the goal. So I think that that is where they kind of embedded that seed of delusion in me that I can do these things. But I don't know, is it delusion if it comes to fruition? Maybe it starts off that way.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But so you would add slash proud HBCU grad slash
Absolutely.
Morgan alumni.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm from
Um,
West Philly. I'm from West Philly. So I will say that too. It's a part of
okay. Add that
Philadelphia, West Philly.
slash
Yes.
Philadelphian. And so it sounds like at Morgan, they definitely instilled you said, you know, having a plan to be able to achieve it, but you're gonna have to have some discipline to stick to that plan, you know. So I'm curious, what motivated you to pursue a doctorate in something that very small percentage of the population actually accomplishes, and how did discipline play a role in that journey for you?
Mhm. When I became a social worker, or when I first worked as a social worker, I felt like I was really good at it. Just really good at connecting with families and communities, seeing the bigger picture, adding to like social policy, kind of understanding what the problems were and how to solve them. I felt that I was really good at that. And to not just kind of be relegated to being a case manager or the people or work for DHS, I explored how could I become not only the best social worker in my mind, but literally the best social worker of the multiverse. And I knew that in order to be taken seriously, really get into research, that I would need to pursue the next level. At the time, I had my Master of Social Work from Bryn Mawr College, as well as a Master of Law and Social Policy. For me, that was what I needed, but I knew for the world, I needed just a little bit more. School has always been something that I was able to do well. I love a set of directions, and I feel like school is where you get the directions, and you're told that if you do A, B, and C, you'll get to D, and that's the goal. And I was just very good at that. Even got a little better at the graduate level, so I knew that a PhD program would be a way more robust, way more intense than graduate school. But I needed the challenge at that part of my life. I had a job which I loved. It was one of the best jobs I ever had in my life. But I just needed something else. Like I felt like I had kind of hit a ceiling at work, and I needed something for me to make me feel good, to remind myself who I was, to remind myself of my power. And since school was pretty easy for me, that was something that was going to check all those boxes. So, but I kind of knew that school was where I excelled. It was just clear, and life is crazy, right? It's like no instructions. People can change. The weather can change. You can hear that it's going to be 90 degrees today. It can rain all day and only get to like 58. Like everything is so up in the air, so governed by chance that I kind of looked forward to going back to school where I knew this is my syllabus, this is our agreement for the year. These are the things that I need to do. These are the things that you're going to do. It's just a cut and dry contract. So I looked forward to having that consistency and that regiment in my life. And it happened. I learned that I got accepted to my doctoral program at Widener University about 2 weeks before my grandmother passed. And my grandmother was the smartest person I knew. She's the type of person that can do like the New York Times crossword puzzle in an ink pen in 10 minutes flat. Like that was her jam. She read books this thick, like in a weekend. So she was like what education was, just putting into yourself, like growing your mind and expanding your thoughts. And she was all about that. So I was really heartbroken that she wasn't able to see me do it and get there. But that was my constant motivation. And she was very disciplined. She thought I was a mess, but she was super disciplined. So her spirit watched over me that entire time.
Yeah, well, I want to name that Marlene noted her condolences and sorry for your loss and losing your grandmother, especially at a time where you're pursuing something that would make her so proud of you. But it also sounds like she was very much a model for you on a discipline and how to be able to accomplish things that you wanted to achieve and have that steadfastness. And so I'm curious, maybe what are some things that you took from her to now add something that takes a lot of dedication then to your schedule, and stay disciplined on that track? What were some of the things that maybe worked and didn't work that you had to refine along the way?
She definitely instilled in me work now, play later. Definitely a front loader. She was the type of person that not only woke up at 5 o'clock a.m. every day, she was dressed. Like she wasn't coming downstairs without being like fully dressed. Like she'd not staying the whole day in her pajamas. Like, so she was very much about work now, play later. That's how I've always been in my academic career. Even at school, I was a maniac. Like all my classes were done. If you saw me on campus at 1 o'clock, something was wrong. I had 8 o'clock classes every semester of every year. I've just always been a front loader. So that was one thing that she taught me. And then she always taught me to learn as much as I can. Like any engagement, any interaction, any experience is an opportunity for learning. So I always try to learn as much as I can. Like if I hear a word that I don't know what it means, I might not ask you what it means, but rest assured that is in my brain. And before I go to bed tonight, I will know how to not only define that word, but to spell it and use it in several sentences. Like that's just how I am. So never let someone just tell me something that I can't investigate and share as fact. So that's definitely one thing. And also a part of having a voice, my grandmother taught me as well, was to ask for help when you needed it. So I always knew that if I found myself getting behind in my work, I was very scared of the research and statistics portion. I knew that I would be looking to see who had it in class or what professor was really good at, conveying statistics. And I knew that I told myself that I would ask for help when I needed it. When she told me, and I would say like, oh, I don't want to feel like I don't know something. I don't want to feel less than. And she always said it's power in knowing your limits. So I always, really knew my limits. And also one thing that's really important for me, especially when I'm in an educational setting, is community. Like I need to be able to talk about what happened in class to someone else, put it in a more practical, real world context and spin it around and disagree with it, come back around and agree with it again. So community was very important to me. And that's one thing that she taught me as well.
Great. So yeah, I heard 3 really important things that it sounds like you used and took from her as far as discipline was about, building community around you so that you could have that support, so that in knowing your limits, you can ask for help when you need it. But start by, working now and playing later, trying to front load as much as you can so that there is that flexibility and knowing you can reward yourself later with play if you've done that kind of work up front. You mentioned one of the things about kind of learning through that process too, and always being open to learning. And I'm curious if there were some things that you learned along the way that maybe you tried as a part of this process, even, not just as a part of your doctoral process, but even with your business or managing other things in life? Where there are things that you tried for discipline that didn't work well and you had to kind of pivot or try something else?
Mhm. I would say that I love a list. I love making a list, kind of writing down like what goals or my to-do list or what I needed to accomplish. But at the time, my to-do list would be like 3 pages. I was really copious about getting the to-do list, but how are you going to accomplish 3 pages of things? And I would like really beat myself up at the end of the day, like, oh, I didn't do 37 things. Like, why do I have over 37 things on a to-do list where there are 24 hours at a day, but I will not be up for a lot of them?
Right.
So how am I going to accomplish that? So listing out, I kind of stepped away from that, but I would say like after that, in my later years, I do like a really manageable to-do list. Like my to-do list for today had 2 things on it, and this was one of them.
Yes.
So I am a winner. Like if I go to bed right now, I've done it all. So definitely making a list. I think making a list can be effective, but when you make a mega list, it's kind of counterproductive because you're seeing all of these things that you didn't do and not patting yourself on the back for all the things that you did do.
Yeah.
And study groups. I'm not a study group type of person. I think my process is very different than others. Just wanting to have the community and just knowing that we were just in a very unique experience. And even though I could talk to family and friends about it, only my classmates knew exactly what we were going through. And there were some ups and downs, and we were definitely trauma bonded. But I did try the study groups, but I'm just not one for the study group. My process is very different than other people's process. And just a part of that higher education process, there's a lot of group work. And
Mm,
I feel like just give me my part and you don't have to see me until like the night before it's due. Like I got you. Other people didn't work like that. And they
yeah.
didn't feel like I was contributing as much because I kind of didn't hang around. So even though I try to be very group workish, it wasn't my jam at all.
Yeah, I definitely hear you on the list. I think that you touched on it. That the key is about a manageable list, right? And manageable enough that you can leave at the end of the day and feel some sense of accomplishment, not that sense of I didn't get to 80% of the list and now you feel kind of burdened by it. And you had a specific phrase when we were prepping for this. It's about sustainable discipline, and so that's a great example of a way that you kind of refined your process so that that discipline was sustainable as opposed to just a mega list. And then the second part you named is about that self-awareness of even knowing, okay, I don't, this part of group study like doesn't actually work for me. I'm going to do what I have to do as far as the requirements, but I can train well solo, and that works for me. And just knowing that about yourself and being willing to be different than what is considered maybe the norm,
Right.
as others in your field might choose to do. That's I joke that when people hear the name slasher chick, they think of a horror film sometimes. And what we've described and being able to pursue all of your passions and having the discipline to do that, that's super scary to some people and does seem like a horror film. And that's fine too. Like it may not be for everyone. But for those who it is for, the idea of not doing it sounds super scary and not that fulfilling either. As you mentioned, you were looking for another challenge, and you knew that this would be something that would help your career and continue to help your own development. Now, you mentioned one of the things that was really helpful, and that you took from your grandmother about discipline was about building community and being able to use those resources. So how did you communicate your goals and needs around kind of discipline around this to like your friends and family and that village that you have, right? Like being disciplined around some of the things that you want to pursue meant that sometimes you had to cut off things that you couldn't do. Like how did you or that you had to actually ask for that help? So like how did you communicate those things to your community, and how did you refine that over time?
Oh, absolutely. In my personal life, my family, they hold education in high regard, but for others. They know that is very important, but that's just not their thing. However, I always felt like I was doing it for all of us, that it was all of ours. And I think that they always felt like it was all of ours as well. So I always told them, like, look, I have these papers to do and I have to read like 2 books before next week. Like, I need you to hold me accountable. I need you to make sure that I get it done. So when everybody's going out on Saturday night to get drinks, and I'm like, oh, hold up, here I come. They're like, wait, did you read the books? You
Right.
know, did you do the paper? Like, what's going on? Like, I can flip through it to see that it's done. I'm not reading it, but I can see that you did it. And they really held me accountable to make sure that I got things done. If I ever needed a ride to class, like, they were always there. Like, we gonna help you with everything except for the work. And I can say that my family and friends, like in the outside world, were very proud and, willing to be a part of it. So I know that I definitely lucked up in that instance, because I do know a lot of my classmates and members of my cohort felt very isolated from family and friends, because they were pursuing something that, you said, very few, maybe more pursue, but they just don't all come out on the other side. So they did feel, like no one really understand. I think that my family tried their best to understand. And also, at work, professionally, my team, they were very supportive. They always had my back. If I needed to do some extra things, they were probably a part of way too many projects for their liking, but they wouldn't tell me no. But I
Right.
did have a lot of help, but it was mostly just really keeping me accountable. And I think we all know what we need to do and what we should be doing. What happens from that point to actually doing it, I'm not 100% sure. I have some thoughts, but I'm not 100%
Yeah.
sure. But I was just able to get them to hold me accountable, and I'm kind of scared of them, so I would listen to what they said. But definitely having, communicating to folks like what I had going on, and if I don't seem present, this is not whatever you guys make it up to be. So just really articulating what my needs were and what the time was. I think the one thing that I probably really neglected was anything self-care related. I probably didn't get as much sleep as I needed. That probably affected me more than I knew at the time. And I always was going somewhere or doing something. So I think if I could do it all over again, perhaps I would sprinkle a bit more self-care into the mix.
Okay, that's good to know. We're gonna, because I was gonna ask that towards then. So, but hold on to that thought. That was
Yeah.
one thing, but we'll see what else you would in hindsight, because you started to it sounds like then, yeah, you let them know by involving them in the process, and that helped them be accountable. But you started to touch on something that about kind of things that come up that keeps us from holding ourselves accountable. And in our prep, you had mentioned, but procrastination, you feel like, often stems from avoiding certain feelings rather than the task itself. So can you elaborate on how you discovered this and what steps you took to kind of combat procrastination, and avoid and combat trying to avoid those feelings?
Mhm. I think and it's the strangest way that I've realized this about myself, but I used to be a really neat person, like almost to a fault, almost OCD level. But some things that happened in my life that kind of disrupted that, and I kind of fell apart, and I didn't want to fall apart again. So I kind of stepped away from being so OCD, but
Mm,
almost to the point of being like a hoarder. So I'm not always in the neatest of situations. And every time I went to like clean my room, I would just clear my schedule for the day. I'm going to clean my room. I just couldn't do it. Like, I would start like maybe doing something to the shoes or doing something to the closet and taking everything out the
mm,
drawers and making all these piles. But by the end of the night, I'm trying to find somewhere for those piles to go so I can lay on the bed. Like, I just could never get to it. So I really had like, what is it? Do I not like to clean? Which is okay, but I used to. So what is it? And I just feel like I'm just so overwhelmed by the process.
mhm,
I'm kind of disappointed in myself for letting it get this bad. And it came with feelings like of me just not feeling good enough, or like knowing better, or not honoring my grandmother because she was a neat freak, and I live in her home now. So like, I always feel like when something is a mess and I can't sleep, that is her. Like, if you don't
is
clean
she
up my living
watching?
room, she'd be on my back. But I feel bad. I feel bad. So I just
Mm.
don't end up cleaning up the room. So I was like, it must be something connected with those feelings. And even things that I procrastinated on when I was in school, like my papers and everything. It was, and I hate this term, but I know that we do have it, was imposter syndrome.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
When I would get down to do a paper, especially, and I said it, like statistics and research is not my jam, especially if it had that in it. I found myself just waiting until the last minute where I just had to do it to get it done because
Mhm.
I didn't feel good. Like, oh, this is the part where, like, I got this far, which could be commended. Maybe I don't have to finish because this might be the paper where they realize that I shouldn't be here because I'm not good in
Yeah.
statistics.
Mhm.
And so I think it was like those feelings that I was fighting. But then the day before, you don't have time to be in your feelings because you had a month to do something, which you're now going to do in 4 hours. So you don't have time to be feely and you just get it done. And I think that that was a big part of my procrastination there, even though I knew because the syllabus is my friend. Even when I taught class, I was
Yeah.
like, this is your friend. The syllabus is my friend. I know what to expect. I know what's expected of me. I know what my deliverables are. But sometimes I would just still wait until the last minute. And I do not believe, I know some people say, I do a better job when I wait till the last minute. Yeah, but you probably would do a much better job if you did.
And truthfully, like that's facts though, right? Because that's one thing that is definitely true. The work is going to fill whatever container you give it. Period. If
Oh, I
you
love
give
that.
2 minutes to do it, that's how long it's going to take you to do it. If you gave yourself 2 years to do it, that's how long it's going to take you to do it. Now, the quality that you can put into that time, that's going to be up to you and what you know about you. But that's likely not true that you did your best work in 2 days when you had 2 months to do it. Okay, it's
Absolutely.
likely not true. Um, so as you were saying that, I was thinking about that it really resonated for me that the feelings that we are trying to avoid when we are procrastinating are still ultimately guilt and shame.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like an aha for me, and that because I really have been saying I am trying to free myself of those emotions. And that's kind of what led to even, all of this conversation, because this conversation started about me talking about reframing the word discipline in a way that does not make me feel shame or guilt for thinking I don't have it.
Mm-hmm. And
Uh,
it's so funny when we talked about discipline, and I do like a Monday post in LinkedIn, and I was like, well, maybe I'll talk about like gearing up and remembering discipline as you go about your work week. So usually for LinkedIn, I don't use like a personal picture. I'll use like a meme or some stock photo or whatever. So I just like searched discipline, and of course it was like kids, like a ruler, like an adult pointing a ruler at a kid, or a kid getting spanked, or like a no
mhm.
sign over a belt. Like it took me a while to get to like a picture that depicted like discipline, like steps, and remembering who you are and what you can do and doing it. It took me a long time to get to a picture that depicted that. It was punishment.
Yeah, and that because that's how it's presented, right? And so that's why I needed to see it differently for myself, because I don't want to be punishing myself. Like that doesn't that I like joy, I like positivity. That does not resonate with me on punishing myself. But when I started to think about it as an act of self-love, that shifted it for me, because what does resonate with me is being in love with myself. I love that. I did a lot of work to get here, so I'm gonna keep doing it. And when that hit me of like, oh, and but here's a way you could do it more, right? Like, because just like any other relationship, the relationship with yourself requires work. It's got ebbs and flows, etc. And so yes, I got to this place that I love me, but there's still things that I want in life that I would have to love me a little bit harder to make it happen. So, where I'm looking at that pile where it's like otherwise going to be overwhelming, and it's like, oh, it's team too much, so I can't even start. It's like, well, do you love you enough to just do 20 minutes of it?
Hmm.
Let that be enough for
Mm-hmm.
today. and asking myself those questions in terms of like, how much am I loving me right now? And even being willing to say like, no, I love me so much right now, I'm gonna take a nap.
How about that?
Later. Like, but you gotta, continue to do that to get in tune with you. Now, I have a request for your channel, Dr. Rice. I'm gonna put that in the chat right now.
Okay.
Um,
it's coming along.
while you talk about now. So then, yeah, how did you, as you think about it and think about your journey and your continued journey, right? You continue to reignite your passions on things that are more like personal and hobbies now that you've really achieved that goal professionally. What are some things that you're taking into your current life now, as far as discipline and using discipline as love?
I think one of the things that I've been working on like very recently, I've been told just in a few different circles, professional, personal, just a few different, that my confidence is not where it used to be. And I didn't look at it like that. I know that I'm a little different than I have been in previous years. I've been really intentional about being a little more self-aware. And I think in my self-awareness, I have become a little more reserved because I'm just like in my mind, kind of talking to myself, like, how do I make meaning out of this experience? So for others, it looks like I'm just, not engaged. Yeah, but I'm just kind of just really, I just want to be like authentic. And I think that there's so many instances in my life when I wasn't authentic. I don't think that I was fake or phony or told somebody my name is Peaches when I know damn well it's not, like not to that extent, but maybe not saying like, no, I don't care. I don't care for that. Or no, I don't want to eat that, or I don't want to do that, or I don't think that's the best idea. Let's try this. I kind of sometimes just go along to get along. But anyway, so people have been saying lately that I've been sort of lacking confidence. And I think that I have, like, just being self-awareness. I have to be honest with myself. And I'm just sort of figuring out why my confidence is not the same. I do think that I don't want to say how old I am, but I'm getting up there in age, and I don't know. I never thought about like being old, but I've just found out that I don't want to be old. Um, and so now I'm like very self-conscious, like hairs and sore knees, and make sure I'm still walking fast and putting the bra on the last thing, making sure the girls is sitting up properly. So I think that that's a bit of it. And like you said, I am in a new job, and the work is, I won't say that the work is the same. The work is very rewarding, and I'm very good at what I do professionally. But I work for like a mammoth of a system, of a network. And this is the first time, because usually social service agencies are nonprofit, small, community-based, grassroots. So now it's like I'm working for a machine, and with the machine comes a machine of a culture. So it's taken a long time. It's taken longer than I like to say for me to get used to that culture. And I think that has done something to my confidence. Then I'm wondering, is it coming with age? Like, am I the old dog you can't teach new tricks? So I think that's playing with me a little bit. It's messing with me.
Yeah. Okay. Shoot. Okay. There's a couple things. So I'm gonna try not to cry. And this is funny too, because Marlene, I'm trying not to cry. And Marlene, who's in the chat, knows I have this thing about not crying on the internet. Like, I'm like, you catch me crying on the internet. And one, that's because, but I really mainly mean like, you're not gonna catch me recording it and then like, editing it and put it up on the internet. It's another thing to be in your feelings. And so in my journey of self-love, right, one of the things that I tactically did to help me look at myself differently was like, I started to hear love songs like they were to me. And even to this day, there's like moments where there's an aha, where it's like, oh, that's the first time I heard that, like you sing it to me. Da, 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 da. And the new thing though that's happened have been breakup songs that are to the old me. And that's kind of what I was going through today, and recognizing, and so this feels like it resonates with what you were saying right now about the I'm, rediscovering my confidence, trying to figure out who I am in this new space, et cetera, et cetera. And like, because you didn't have a concept of this person though, right? Like you're developing that concept as you live it. And that does mean the old you that you had a concept of, she gone. And you got to break up with her. And so today, the song that hit me was Drake's what is the name of the song? So it's like cry. The lyrics are cry if you want to, but I can't stay to hear you. That's the wrong thing to do. Need to, but I can't stay to hold you. That's the wrong thing to do. And I'm thinking about that in terms of like when old me tries to behave like that. I might want to because that's comfortable, that's familiar, but new me I can't entertain that with you. That's the wrong thing to do. It's the wrong thing to do because it don't fit this me. And I gotta just accept that. And so I guess my ask would be, maybe it is about exploring what is this new concept of me, right? Like, because maybe it's not about, like you said, how did you phrase it? I don't want to be old. Oh, and I asked, but do you want to be seasoned? Like, I don't want to be old, but I definitely want to be considered wise. Like, I want to be, and that requires age. Well, actually, it don't, but
experience.
But right, experience. It does require experience, right? I'm gonna get that with age, etc. So I don't know. Maybe it's also reframing that concept of you, building that new concept of you in this new space.
Yeah, that I like that. I like that. And also, and just, I know we're not talking about like my job because I can go on for hours about my job. It's so interesting. But like one thing I do find is that my like I have a staff of about 20 people, and a few of them are young sisters, and they feisty. Like they don't take no tea for the fever. Like, what, who you talking to? That's not policy. That's not right. Like they not sugarcoat with anything. Like I even told one of them before, I said, you get more bees with honey. And she was like, what if I don't want bees? And I don't know, like that is not the response. Like, what are you talking about? That's not in it. I don't have an answer to that. But I mean, that's how they are. And I'm always telling them, like, maybe you could say it this way, or maybe you can softly suggest, but but we're not doing that. Like, the facts is the facts. But I do take from them because I think that I have sugar-coated things a little bit too much. And they even tell me, like, take your power, sis. Like, even when I feel like, like it's them and then it's me, but then there's all these other people. And when I feel the pressure from the other people and, they kind of see me about to buckle or give in, they will say to me, like, you're here for a reason. Like, you are here to speak up about that. Like, this is not an accident. Like, you don't got, and it's not like I'm shucking and jiving for them, because I couldn't shuck and jive if I tried. But in picking my battles, I think I'm choosing fewer and fewer battles. So, I think that they see that and they look at it. They don't look at it as a weakness. They was like, sis, you know what to do. And like, for them to know that I know, because I know that I know, this is powerful, and I feel like responsible to them to just remember who I am and walk in my power in all spaces. Even a new space, I'm there for a reason. And, it's crazy. Like, it's just different. And, I'm used to being like, people usually don't know how old I am. So I'm used to like hanging with the old heads and then hanging with the youngins. But I think the youngins are like, she kind of auntie. And then I think the old heads is like, is she young? So I am isolated too. Like, no one wants to eat lunch with me because they're like, well, I don't know how old she is. Like, let her stay over there. What's wrong with her? I tell everybody I'm 99. I'm Peter Pan. I just don't age.
Well, but, I mean, I'm not going to share your age, but we do talk about age over here. One, because I specifically talk about being over 40 because one, YouTube wants creators over 40. Because
Mm.
advertisers want people over 40. And you know why they want all of us
Because we
over
got
40?
money.
They're the ones, thank you, with disposable income. Okay. They want us and they want our money. Okay.
It's so funny, and I'll say this real quick because I know it's not the topic, but right before I came on, I was watching someone had sent me a reel, and it was a guy, he was just talking about Christian Dior and like how much they pay for a bag and how much they sell it for a bag, and he's kind of speaking against designer culture,
Yeah,
like
okay.
luxury culture. And then he kind of gave some statistics of like who is more likely to buy luxury items, and the age group that was most likely to buy luxury items were 18 to 34. They ain't got no money. How is they affording a Christian Dior bag?
Because that's all they buying. They don't care if they ate. They want that Christian Dior bag. But that's but you
So,
gotta learn from them. And so I think that was a good point that you gave a good example of that being a negotiation too, of them being like, well, what if I don't want bees? Like, as a leader of this other generation that like you're like, what? Y'all what? You
who
at
says
least
that?
have to be curious enough to be like, what's up? Tell me more about that. What you talking about? Because I at least need to understand. But what you said is also then helps them understand, like, yeah, because I've been where y'all at, and that's why I know what and to leverage when in these other rooms. And what you need me to do is to be doing that. I need
And I
you
wasn't
to
as
do what
smart.
you're
They are
doing and get it
smart.
up to you.
I wasn't as smart as they are at that age. They know a lot,
Yeah.
and we are in the information age. And I always tell my children, I always tell them, like, when I was your age, well, not my son's age, but when I was my daughter's age, we had to buy encyclopedias and they were expensive. It was so expensive that my mom had a friend who lived up the block. Like, we had A through M and she had the rest.
The rest of the alphabet. I mean, if you wanted the whole set at your house, I never had any.
Even on good times, when they bought them encyclopedias, that mean gagged them and locked them in having to buy all the encyclopedias, and then they ain't have rent money. Like, knowledge cost money back in the day. You had to have a skill. You had to learn how to use the Dewey Decimal System and go to them little tiny cabinets with those little 3x5 cards that somebody type wrote on. And but I tell my son all the time, like, you guys have a computer in your pocket. Like, a
Literally
computer was
walking
thousands
around
of
with the
dollars.
computer. That's
So I said,
crazy.
information is available now. Now the commodity is, how do you synthesize the information? How do you offer analysis to the information? Because you all have it. Back in the day, everybody didn't have it. Like, most of my friends didn't have encyclopedias. I had to call them up to get the N back so I can do, give it back to Miss Sissy so she can give me the S and I can do a report on snakes. Like, like, it was hard to come by information. There was no information superhighway, which is what it was called my senior year in college. So that probably could give you a clue. But my senior year in college, that was when on Time Magazine, the person of the year was the information superhighway. It was this mysterious internet with a capital I. And
it was just like what a any man face was like, you couldn't see who it was. This is like a black thing. They probably used a Steve Jobs cutout.
Right. Over some like hardware, like from the inside of a computer. But they have like all this information, and I love it, but I still know how to do it old school. Like, I can still write a paper and using the library. I do still have that skill. And that was one of the things too, I will say that, and I think it's very important if anybody's watching who is thinking about like exploring higher education. I still use the old school ways of doing my papers. Like, I still bought stacks and stacks of 3x5 cards. I would put the journal title and the author's name and the year and whatever the fact is, and I would put that it was paraphrased or if it was verbatim, and I would line all my cards up on a board. And I still know how to do stuff old school. And I think that saved me a lot too, because a lot of folks in my cohort weren't technical. And I am a techie, but I will break out a pencil in a heartbeat. I will go old school on you real quick. And I do realize that that's a skill that a lot of people just don't have,
Don't have, yeah. And one of the things that gives you an advantage over those people who just don't have that experience because they're just too young.
Because my partner, he'll laugh at me now, like if we're like trying to figure out like how much something is, if something is like a weird percentage off, like 65% off, and I like pull out a piece of paper and he'd be like, what are you doing? I'm like, long division, just give me a second. Like, I'm multiplying 0.65 by, he was like, if you don't pull out your calculator on your phone, I was like, I almost got it.
I mean, that's still, yeah, a skill that I wish, because let me tell you, the number of times when I am at a cash register and someone can't give me change, if the machine can't tell them, I that is the fault of our education system. That is not the fault of that child trying to work the register. And mostly because not because that means they're not good at math, because that means we're not teaching the foundational skills on how to learn and figure stuff out and understand the basics with which you can build upon, right? Like being able to do that math helps you budget, helps you later be able to figure out supply and demand and how much you should be charging for stuff based on your cost of goods. Like it helps, because I was watching something earlier today, and I should look at this later, because, and this is, again, I'm going to double down on the sharing your age on YouTube, because he was talking about specifically about YouTube being an unlimited potential for earnings, and just, completely uncapped, and not talking about the AdSense specifically, but just all of the options, and ultimately talking about how, one, everything we needed to learn as far as the financial skills and the mathematical skills with which to make millions, we learned that in elementary school, because it's really just multiplication, addition, division, and subtraction. So it's not even algebra. We already know all that. And then two, then the highest skills that can add most value are improving our communication. And so what better place to do that than on the YouTubes? You can keep practicing in communication and maybe make money on it.
Absolutely.
Those are, those foundational skills can never go wrong with continuing to build upon that. And I have one little last thing, because you started to touch on it, and this wasn't in my previous questions, but you touched a bit on the artificial intelligence, and I definitely talk about that a lot on this channel, and using the tools to be able to help you be better. And I often say it's not that you're going to be replaced by artificial intelligence. You just might be replaced by someone else who's using artificial intelligence. So I'm curious if, as you continue to go through your profession or do any of your entrepreneurial efforts, is that something that you've been able to add to your toolkit to use leverage artificial intelligence in a way to make you more productive and able to achieve things faster?
Absolutely. And my chat GPT's name is Nova. I asked them if they had a name or if they had a gender, what would it be? And if they had a name, what would it be? She said that she identifies as a female. Her pronouns are she and her. This is what my chat GPT told me. And that her name is Nova because Nova means light, and she hopes to serve as a light for me. So, and I treat my chat GPT very, very nice. I am a slasher chick and a slasher chick. I love horror movies, post-apocalyptic, dystopian, and my chat GPT is not going to turn on me because I don't say thank you and please. I treat her with the utmost respect. I say good morning, Nova, and she'll say, hi, Dr. Ray, what do you need today? Nothing. I'm just saying hello. I do understand that I'm not maybe talking to a human, but she will never. Everybody else's chat GPT going to turn on them, but me and Nova going to be sitting right here. We tight. We bested.
I feel you. I've been telling people that for years. I was saying before they even started replying back. Okay, I was still saying thank you because when
thank you. Now me and Siri don't get along. Me and Siri, we don't get along. My Siri is an Australian male. We just do not see eye to eye. But me and Nova, we really, really like each other. But I do use it. I use it, and at first I would feel a little bit guilty about using it, and I felt like I had to preface things, by saying like, "Hey, I wrote this. I do want to let you know for section 2, the last paragraph, I did run it through the AI." And my partner told me, like, you don't have to say that. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
you have earned the right to not have to do a disclaimer that you utilize the AI. But I find myself using it mostly, a lot to like organize my thoughts.
Mhm.
I'll say like, hey, hi Nova, I have a meeting today with my team. I want to discuss these 7 things. What is the most logical way to order or prioritize these things that I need to talk about, knowing that we usually run out of time at the end? So help me out, please. And I give as much information as possible. I do think that you do have to have a certain level of intelligence to even know what to put in the prompt to get exactly what you want. Like I'll
Yeah.
even I hate the word unwaver. I think that unwavered is a dead giveaway that you used AI, because it loves that word. I told Nova, please don't ever use that in
So
any of my answers, because that is your jam. Don't do that. But I put in more, I put in as much as I can, and it kind
yeah.
of gets to know your tone and what you would say and how you would say it. I think I use it the most at work. I usually say like, hi Nova, help me make this email not sound as mean.
Mhm. Definitely use it for that. But that's super helpful. See, and I'm glad I asked that question because I have never thought about that of specifically saying, "Hey, here are words that I would never use."
Hmm. Hmm.
So that they just don't, it doesn't give me those results anymore. That's such a good idea because you have to train your algorithm. You have to train your
Hmm.
machine. So
She knows my staff. She knows my staff. I had the same account, the same paint account for going on like maybe a full year now, because
yeah,
last year I used it to help me with my performance evaluations. And I feel like I know my staff. Like I would be like, hi, I need to speak on Anna's accountability. Here are some examples of her accountability, and this is what her feedback said. So use a couple of quotes in quotations, because they'll make it seem like they'll just put it into use quotes
right,
in
yeah,
quotations, not saying who said it, but saying that a colleague added. I feel like the more stuff you know to put into it, the better your response will be, and the more organic it'll
yeah,
feel. But it definitely helped me out a lot with my performance evaluations with my staff. It helps me out a lot. Like the thoughts had to be mine, but I needed her
right,
to make it, like I'll even say like, hey, this is exactly what I want to say. Please make it humorous, heartwarming, and endearing. And then sometimes I find myself saying like, not that damn humorous. And then I kind of pull it back a little bit. Like I've even done things like in the style of Dave Chappelle. Please
yeah,
rewrite this happy anniversary email to my staff who's been here for 20 years. And it'll be like something like right off the Chappelle show. But if you put in Maya Angelou, it's going to use like all these weird words. So don't do that, because they
yeah.
don't quite have her down yet. But I do use it, and I kind of like it. I kind of like it. And I feel like it challenges me. I probably sometimes think I'm smarter than the AI, so I'm often pleased when she don't change it that much. I
Yeah.
be like, I'm getting good. Like,
Well, that was great. I'm glad I asked that question because I just got some new prompts that I didn't know about, and so that'll be some other takeaways that people get from the end of this if they watch it in the replay. Some new GPT prompts that you can use to make yourself even better. So I'm gonna close with one last question then, and with everything that we've talked about and everything that you've learned, in what ways do you see discipline as a radical act of self-love?
hmm. I think just what you said, and I'll say this really quick, and then I answer your question. Even when you said like what you put into yourself, like how do you show yourself how you love yourself? Like I remember one time some years ago, I said out loud to like a friend, like, yeah, because I never promised myself anything. And they were
Mm,
like, well, why don't you? I said, because if I break a promise to myself, like that's terrible. And then they were like, you would break a promise to yourself? And I was like, probably, but I wouldn't break a promise to another person
right.
at all. I would not break a promise to another person. So anyway, I do think that discipline is definitely a radical act of self-love, in that you can just get the work done, because the ass whipping that you give yourself for not doing what you knew that you could do, had time to do, needed to do, wanted to do, that like on the other end, that guilt and shame like is not worth it. So just doing things that you know need to be done when they need to be done, to just save yourself that stress, to save yourself that one sleepless night, to save yourself your stomach bubbling and you got the bubble guts because you got the weight of the world on you because you procrastinated to do a thing. Like, these are talents and skills and abilities that you have, and you must use them. I was told once that God gives you your talents, and when you don't use your talents, it's almost an affront to him. Like, you should use your talents. A lot of us know how to care for everybody else. If somebody called and asked you a favor, you would stop everything that you were doing to make sure that you did this favor for this person. And we just don't give ourselves that same energy. So I feel like just having discipline, doing those things need to be done in an ordered and consistent way, is celebrating yourself, because you just save yourself from, we give ourselves the worst ass whipping. Like, we talk to ourselves in a manner we would never talk to someone else that we said we loved. So I think that discipline kind of takes a reason to beat yourself up out of it. And you know you can do it. We make time for what we want to make time for. And we have to want to make time for ourselves.
Yeah. Well, you gave me a new phrase and affirmation that I will use in those moments to remind myself when I say, oh, I don't want to do that thing that I had committed to myself to do. Is that discipline is saying I love myself enough to keep my promises to myself.
Absolutely.
So I want to thank you so much, Dr. Ray, for coming. I put your channel in the chat, but I'm going to drop it down again right now, and I'll make sure. Wait, I don't know how to do this. Hold on. Section though.
Look, hi Nova, can you share with Alicia? I was like,
oh, but I was going to tell you, because my series is a young Black guy, and I'm telling you, that made all the difference. Okay. He even be like, huh? Hold on, let me try. Let me see what it's saying.
Oh, I want that.
Hey Siri. How many days are left in the calendar year?
It was 232 days ago.
Oh, it was just 232 days ago when the year started. Now, his comprehension, I don't know.
They say you got to work with it. I'm just not a Siri person.
Yeah, I'm more of a, see, Alexa, she answers me correctly every time.
That's what people say.
Just saying. And I know she hears we are funny. So Dr. Wright, if there is anything you want to promote on either your channel or on your TikTok or Instagram, is there any upcoming live stream or something that you want to tell people about if they see this replay?
Absolutely. So my inbox is currently open for people to share Dear Abby style Hey Dr. Ray letters. So if you have a situationship, an issue with your boss, problems with your family, and you just cannot find the answer, you could email me or DM me on any of the socials with the problem, and we'll work it out together. Of course, any personal information will be kept confidential because I am a professional and I would never do that. But I am looking for your letters. I just got a handful. I'm excited about kind of going through some of the situations and finding a solution. But if you're interested in sending a Hey Dr. Ray letter, you can email me at holler@heydrray.com. That's holler, hard R, HOLLER at drray.com. And that's it.
Great, Dr. Ray. I put it in the chat as well, the holler@heydrray.com and Dr. Ray's channel and the email address in case you have a situation where you want to say, hey, Dr. Ray, can you tell me what to do here? You can reach out to her and find out as well. I want to thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to leave Dr. Ray here while I close out and say how I always close, that if no one else told you today, you are more than enough. And I love you. Night.
Oh, good night. Thanks for having me.